everybody. We're going to start the second half of the day or nighttime program tonight. Is with Donnamaria. Say hi, Donnamaria.
Hi. Hi.
She's going to be talking to us tonight in regards to personal projects, making it profitable, and we're in for a treat. So settle in. I'm going to introduce you, or you to take over, and you can do all your introduction yourself, and then we'll come back whenever we take a break. And just to let you know, she might have to leave because one of her kids is having a baby. All right, so enjoy, Donnamaria. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. So, thank you. So first I want to say thank you all so much for the invitation and absolutely for the hospitality. It's an honor to be here today. It is a very special day for more than one reason. If it looks like I'm leaning or falling asleep, just come up and tap me because I've been up now for 2 days. So thank you. Today we are going to talk about personal projects. A little bit of background on me. So I'm a military brat. However, I spent 28 years in the military. I retired this year will make 11 years ago. And after I retired, I continued to work for the Department of Defense. I was at the military medical school, and I was teaching nurses and doctors about different kinds of things. I was also doing research on supplements. Nothing to do with photography until it had something to do with photography. So my coworkers, they were getting married, they were having babies, and they knew I loved photography. So, you know, you shoot my wedding. You photograph my baby. Ooh. Babies. Okay, we're not going to talk a lot about babies. Yeah. I stopped photographing newborns a long time ago. A little bit of extra poop and pee on $1,000 backup, and you rethink whether or not you want to continue to shoot babies. So I have been a photographer for a really, really long time, but I have not done it professionally for a really, really long time. Only since 2012. I actually took my camera to war with me, and my camera came back and my pictures came back, but I wasn't actually able to keep all of the pictures, if you understand. So I have always had a passion for photography. When I retired, I knew I wanted to do this full time, and it took actually finding a studio by accident to make me resign from my DoD job and say, I want to do this full time. So I have a disclaimer. It says that we're going to talk about personal projects and profitability. I am not going to tell you how to make a whole lot of money with personal projects. I can't do that because I don't know what's important to you. It's a personal project. So I'm not going to try to encourage you to follow anyone else's ideas about personal projects because it's personal. But what I am going to do is, hopefully I'm going to encourage you to give yourself permission. Okay? If it's okay with you, I'm not going to stand back there like I'm giving a briefing to the generals. I did that for a number of years, and I would like for this to be a discussion. So I'm not going to talk the entire evening. We're actually going to have a discussion. Okay? So my mission today is I hope that I inspire you to give yourself permission to just do something different. Those of us that have fallen down the rabbit hole of social media, I want you to crawl out of that hole, leave your friends there, yes, and do something that's important or interesting to you. Whether that's photographing people, places, things, or how about not photography at all? Because a personal project doesn't have to have anything to do with photography. Here we go. All right. We're moving really fast and not going anywhere. Okay, here we go. All right. So, how many people are right where they want to be with their photography journeys? Okay. All right. So we're always looking to do something different, looking for something that will give us that warm and fuzzy feeling to be satisfied. Okay. So if you're not where you want to be, is it because you're in a rut? Are you bored? Is there no business or business is slow? Are you stressed? Need an escape? Tahiti sounds nice. Are you affected by outside influences? So with the pandemic, there were actually some photographers that they've been doing really well during the pandemic. I'm not sure how they are doing really well because, but they've done different things. We've had people that were using Zoom to do photo shoots. I found that to be really interesting. But there are people that have come up with some very creative and very unusual ways to make money with their photography.
Here.
All right. I can come over there and stand. You know, when you're briefing the Surgeon General, if you can't do it in 4 slides, don't even bother to get up there because after the 4th slide, he's going to tell you to sit down. If you can't, if it's important, you should be able to say it in 4 slides. All right. So, how many of you are already engaged in personal projects? Doesn't matter what it is. Okay, if you're working on a car, God, that's most of the people in the room. What about you out there in the Zoom world? What kind of personal project? Anybody?
At least 2 of them are.
Photo books? Okay. Anybody else?
Inspiration, genealogy.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Anybody else? Okay. Anybody doing anything that has nothing to do with photography specifically? Okay. Restoring your car. It's a personal project, right? Yes.
Marie says she's quilting,
She's quilting.
and Gwen says insects.
Insects. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something to be said about insects. Anybody know who Jamie Beck is? Okay, so Jamie Beck, I think she and her husband are the photographers that had something to do with the moving portrait. Okay, they moved to Providence. Is it Providence or Provence? I don't know, but they moved to France. And she got pregnant. They were going to go there for a year and they stayed. She does a lot of self-portraits, but she also does a lot of still life work with flowers. And she collects insects. And she places them in strategic places. And people are buying this artwork. So I asked that question for a reason because just because it's not photography related doesn't mean it can't be related to photography at some point.
I'll do it. I'll do it.
You got it?
Yeah, you do thanks. I'll do this.
You do that? Where's my camera? Okay, next slide. Okay, so I have heard all kinds of reasons why people don't have personal projects, and they all boil down to one of these. Some people have just never thought about it. Okay, some people just have no idea what to do, and there's a way to find out what to do. Some people immediately want to know how can they make money from it. So if you go into it with that mindset, maybe it's not really a personal project. Maybe it's just another revenue source that you're trying to squeeze. And then some people are just too busy. I would say that I was just too busy, except probably 80% of the portraits that I create that people hire me to photograph came from a personal project. So I'm only going to go over a few of them today. All right. Yeah, that's awesome. I pointed, I didn't push the button at all, and it went forward. Okay, so I said one of the reasons I hear commonly is they don't know what to do. So I would ask the question: do you have a hobby? Okay. Do you collect anything? If you collect insects, oh, there's something you can do with that. What's your favorite color? You know, they have books out there. Oh, you know, we have these personal projects, go out and shoot everything that you see today that's yellow. But what if you don't like yellow? How interested are you going to be in photographing everything that's yellow? Okay. What body part do you find most intriguing? I've seen photographers that have whole bodies of work based on one part of the body, the neck, or the hands, or just the eyes. All right. So what do you enjoy outside of photography? For me, I enjoy riding my motorcycle. I enjoy riding a horse. I enjoy painting. So we have outside interests that can actually turn into profit, something profitable within your photography, and I'm going to show you that. What inspires you? Well, babies inspire me, but I am absolutely fascinated by the pregnant woman. I did not realize that until my daughter 9 years ago was pregnant. I had no intentions on being a maternity photographer. No intention whatsoever. Okay. What frightens you? I have a list of those things. What puzzles you? These are the kind of questions that you can ask yourself and actually turn it into a personal project that later on could lead to something else. So these are the projects that I am going to talk about today, and it's just 4 of them. I actually have several, but I didn't realize that they were personal projects until someone pointed it out to me. Okay. All right. So in 2012, I drove by this cul-de-sac of auto repair bays that I drive by every single day, multiple times a day. And I saw a police sign. I had in the past had a really small studio in my dining room, which means that I had no dining, right? I had remarried, I was caring for my mother, and I did not want to have people in and out of the house. So I was looking for a studio, but I was really not looking for a studio. It just happened. So I drive by, I see this police sign, I turn around and I go back, and I was like, this is it. I only had 3 requirements. It had to have a bay door, it had to have a bathroom, and it had to have at least 10-foot ceilings. Now, I didn't say anything about available light, which I wish I had thought about the available light. I didn't think anything about square footage. Those were my criteria. Those were my criteria because I wanted a bay door because I needed to be able to photograph bikers. That's all I wanted. I just wanted to be able to ride a motorcycle in and photograph. Okay. So in 2012, I get the studio, and guess what? It wasn't all up to code. So I didn't really get to operate business in there until the end of 2013. We're talking 18 months, folks. That's how long it took to get a use and occupancy permit. So what do I do with the space that I'm paying rent on that I can't do anything in for money? Like, okay, well, let's just shoot some bikers so I can get used to shooting some bikers. It became a personal project. So the young lady on the bottom is my daughter, and she is posing with my bike. There's nothing else in that studio except for that bike, my daughter, me, and a camera and one light. Okay. The image on the top left, a little further into that 18 months happens to be one of the ladies of my motorcycle club. So I had each of them come in there and I photographed their bikes. The image on the right, we're going to talk about, I think, in the next slide. Community service is a really big deal to me. So the biker community that I'm in is really big on community service. So we wanted to do something for the children in the area, letting them know that it was really important that you stay in school. Okay. And you see people with these really nice cars and these really nice bikes, and you don't just wake up one morning and get to go and buy one of these bikes, because a lot of these bikes cost as much or more than some cars. Okay. So we wanted to create a calendar that showed people with their bikes in the clothes that they wore every day to work. So we were highlighting what their career was, but they were also motorcycle enthusiasts. So that is one page out of that calendar, and then all the proceeds to the calendar went to a school to help them with their prom or that kind of thing. So this is different pages from that calendar. Now, was that profitable? No, I didn't make any money off of that, but it was charity. And what happened with that is other people bought this calendar, other bikers bought the calendar, and they were like, oh, well, can I commission you to photograph me and my bike? I mean, some of these folks, their bikes are $50,000-$60,000 by the time they put all the upgrades on it. So they're proud of their motorcycles and they want to be photographed, and they will pay you to do that. So that's how the personal project turned into a project for charity that turned into, these are some of the people that hired me to photograph them with their bikes. That bottom picture, I was hired by Harley Davidson in DC to photograph their custom build for that year. Okay. All right. My second personal project. Anybody else in here ride? Let me ask that question. Anybody else in here ride? Okay. That's all there. Okay, so if you're on that biker scene, there are some things that kind of trend, things that you see that are happening, and a lot of these men and women smoke cigars. So I am fascinated by fire and smoke. So I would just sit, I would just sit and watch. And I was still not in the studio yet. So I would have them ride their motorcycle to the studio, photograph them outside or inside, smoking a cigar. My very first, I say victim, because I didn't know what I was doing until we were at the sixth cigar, because I couldn't get the smoke right, and it was a challenge for me. But what I learned is that you can't just photograph somebody smoking a cigar and it look good. You actually had to be intentional. The smoke had to actually show up. So that means whatever was behind it had to allow that to happen. I didn't want people blowing smoke that looked like a torpedo. So it was all about the smoke wafting. And different cigars produce different kinds of smoke. So there were a lot of things that I learned. So I photographed these people. The gentleman in the middle on the bottom is my little guy. We call him Tiny. He's 6'7", 305 pounds. It's my husband. So I photographed these amazing people smoking these cigars, and next thing I know, it's getting some traction. I wasn't photographing them to make money. I was photographing them because I was fascinated with the smoke. I was even more fascinated by the questions that I got from other photographers. Who did you buy those brushes from in Photoshop? No, these are not brushes. They're actually they're smoking cigars in your studio? I said, yes, I just don't photograph anyone for a week. I have to make sure that all the smoke is cleared out of the studio. So yes, I was fascinated by that question. I'm a purist when it comes to photographing smoke. No brushes, the real deal. So I got to a point where being in the studio wasn't enough. I was getting bored. So I would take them outside of the studio. This woman here is literally sitting on a car that we borrowed from someone else in front of the bay door of my studio. People were crazy over this photograph. I was like, really? And then I started getting, can you photograph me smoking a cigar? And I had to start thinking about that, because I can't have people in the studio smoking cigars every day of the week. What about the rest of my clients? So I would only do it on Sundays. And before I knew it, I had a whole slew of clientele that were hiring me to photograph them smoking cigars. Who knew? But there's some connectivity there. These were bikers that also smoked cigars. And then there were other people in the cigar lounges that weren't bikers, and they were seeing the pictures, and then they were inquiring about how to get photographed. And so I started seeing a little trend here. When I knew anything, I was being hired to photograph people smoking cigars, and they wanted it big. They wanted it in their great room, in their foyer. The picture on the top right, that's not a cigar, that's a hookah. And that picture is life size in the hookah lounge. The owner bought that to go in their lounge. Some of the other photographs that I have are in cigar lounges. Who knew? I was just fascinated with the smoke. Okay. So I have a thing. I love beards. As a matter of fact, my relationship with my husband would be terribly strained if he were to cut off his beard or grow any hair. I also like bald men. So I was like, if you grow hair on your head or you cut the hair off your chin, we have a problem. So I had to look this word up. Someone called me a Donnamaria when I was describing my love for beards. And it's a lover of beards or facial hair. So I started photographing people with beards. Now, there's no way I thought anybody would hire me just because they had a beard. So this was purely just a personal project. By now, I'm in the studio, but things were so slow. Business was really slow. I was still learning about marketing and networking and things like that. So when you don't have business, what do? You lean on a personal project. So I started photographing people with beards. And when I say just people, random people, I am very serious about that. The gentleman at the top left, I ride with him. We ride together. The gentleman in the middle was someone who used to hang out at one of the auto repair places in the cul-de-sac. The gentleman on the right worked for Costco and changed my tires. I said, hey, what are you doing tomorrow? Well, I have an interview tomorrow for another job. I was like, oh, what time is the interview? Such time. I was like, can you swing by so I can take a picture of you and your beard beforehand? And he literally rode his motorcycle in the rain, came in, I photographed him. He went back home, changed his clothes, and went to the interview. No money involved. That's him right there, because he changed clothes on the bottom left. This gentleman right here, my husband and I went to a tasting downtown DC for, so we say Remy Martin, but they corrected us and said it's Remy Martin. And we were standing in line, and this young man was standing in front of me. And he was really, really tall, so I felt like I was between a sandwich. I got my husband here and him here, and I'm just standing there. And so I just kind of peeked around. I was like, oh my God, look at his beard. And so I said, excuse me, I'm a photographer. I love your beard. I would like to photograph you. He looked at me like I had lost my mind. And I said, no, I'm serious. I would love to photograph you. And so I went in my purse and I pulled out my card and I went to hand it to him and he just stared at me. And then my husband said, yo, man, she's not playing. This is my wife. Take the card. So he took the card. I was like, yeah, that sounds like her. So he took the card and he called me and made an appointment to I just wanted to photograph. I was like, I'll give you the pictures. I just want to photograph. And he showed up, 26 years old. He showed up with this and he also had a tux. I was like, wow, you're really sharp looking. When I knew anything, I had a woman reach out to me on social media, saw his picture, and said that she really loved how her son's beard was coming in because when he was a teenager, he was fascinated with dad's beard and he would just have his patches. I can totally relate because my son was patchy for the longest time. And she hired me to photograph him so that I could capture his beard. Okay. Maternity, one and done. This is my daughter. When I say I had no intentions of being a maternity photographer, I was not kidding. She said she would never have children. And then she did. I said, well, you know what? I just want to remember this moment forever. I want to photograph you. She was okay with it. I had never done a maternity photo shoot ever. And let me tell you, when I look back at those images, it looked like I had never done a maternity shoot ever. This was a happy accident. So I spent $100 on a piece of silk and was looking at somebody else's images. And I had her standing there, get the black backdrop, and had the fan on her, and it was going. And I looked at the pictures. I was like, yeah, I'm really not feeling this, but I didn't want to tell her that. So I was like, okay, we're done. We had done all the other pictures. It's like, we're done. She was like, okay. So I reached down, set my camera down, was getting ready to turn off the light. And when I turned around, I mean, this is authentic silk, so you know it takes its time falling. When I turned around, I saw that. I just grabbed the camera and took the shot. One shot. That's it. One shot. I didn't know whether it was in focus. I didn't know, but it was just so beautiful. So after that, I said, "Oh yeah, this is kind of nice." Yeah, but I really don't want to get into photographic practice. I really, because I could not think past. My background is medical. Okay, so I'm thinking about all the things that could go wrong. Yeah, when do you photograph? Like how many months? What if there's complications? Can they get in the pose? I completely talked myself out of being an maternity photographer. Okay, and then people saw the image and they said, "Oh, can you? I'm this many weeks. Oh my God!" I was like, "No." So I turned down so many opportunities to photograph pregnant women, and I was having a conversation with my mentor. And I was telling him how I really wanted him to talk to this other photographer. We're having this great conversation. And then I told him about it. He said he really loved this image. I said, yeah, people coming out of the woodwork wanted me to photograph them being pregnant. I don't want to do that. I'm not interested. And he said, hold on for a second. Please don't tell anybody that I'm your mentor. Are you crazy? You turning down? I was like, no, I'm not crazy. I'm just not interested in doing that. It's like all these things could go wrong. So I want you to know that I photograph more maternity sessions now than anything else, especially since 2020. These were all practice. These were all practice. The young lady on the left is a photographer in New Jersey. I was going up to New York to work on a project for the Met, and I said, I would love to photograph you. I'll just drive through and photograph you and then keep going to New York. And that's exactly what happened. She loved it. The young lady, the second and the fourth is the same young lady. You know, she happened to be a friend of somebody else. I said, look, I want to photograph a woman that's pregnant with a mohawk. And she said, oh, I have just the person. I was like, okay. And so she came in and I had never done the whole throw-in, the fabric. I was like, yeah, this is a lot of work. But people were asking, and I had turned down so many, you can't go back, like 6 months later and say, yeah, okay, I'll photograph you now because the baby's 5 months old now, right? So I just kept practicing and practicing and practicing. And then my makeup artist flew me to Miami to photograph her daughter. That's her on the left. This place that's called, I think, is an oasis for Frisian horses. It's called a patch of heaven, I believe. And when I walk by, so this is the barn. The barn is over $1 million, and it's built to withstand hurricane after Hurricane Andrew. And when I walked by that, I saw the whole curve of the bench. It looked like a belly, so I said, just sit down. And there's another picture of her later, but this is another makeup artist. She says, oh, can you photograph me out, this many weeks? This is insane. The woman on the right here, I have now photographed her 3 times. Only one maternity session, okay? But I have photographed her son as a senior. I have photographed her family. She keeps coming back. She doesn't ask me about prices. She just keeps coming back. All of this because I photographed my daughter when she was pregnant. Okay? They keep coming. I mean, they keep coming. Like it's insane. So that's the same young lady. This is the bridal suite in that barn. I did no color grading to that. She was tired. It was 105 degrees outside. She was determined. She's an equestrian. She was determined to have her photograph taken with these horses and out and about. It was absolutely beautiful. It's really beautiful. And so we went in here because it was the only place that was air conditioned in the barn. The barn is more glamorous than my home. Okay. And I was doing something with the camera. When I turned around, she was sitting like that, just took the picture. Okay. This is the same young lady that I said keeps coming back. She keeps coming back. And when I say they keep coming, they keep coming. So all of these are in like a 7-8 month period, a year. It's insane. This one was just this past weekend. Okay. The young lady sitting on the throne, that's my daughter's best friend. So they just keep coming, and all because I photographed my daughter 9 years ago. Can you imagine what the 2030 census is going to be like? There's more babies being born since 2020 because of the pandemic. They're all pandemic babies. It's going to be insane. So this young lady right here is the one who is about to give me my second granddaughter right now. That is my son. Okay, so it's your turn. Those that don't have a personal project, why not? Most of the people in here have a personal project. You have a personal project? No. So what's going on?
You're going diving.
Yeah, no.
Shoot some dive stuff.
Oh, no, yeah, but that, I mean, I do travel and I do stuff like that, but I don't see that as a personal project. It's just something I do, right?
Okay.
I mean, photographing family, travel and stuff like that, but that's not, it's not maybe intentional as much as it's opportunistic. You know what I mean?
So let's talk about travel.
Okay.
I went to Mexico, to the Yucatan Peninsula, to assist another photographer. Not my gig at all. I'm just helping out. But I love texture. So I was photographing the walls. I collect pictures of doors. I was photographing the street. I wasn't buying hand-painted backdrops at the time, so I figured shoot one piece of gray seamless, taking pictures of all these textures, apply the texture in Photoshop, right? Okay, nobody will know the difference. So I came back and I decided that there was a session I was going to have. There was a specific color of backdrop that I wanted. I didn't have it. There was no way I was going to get one in 4 or 5 days. So I decided I'm going to paint one. And because of the look that I was going for, I wanted something really, what's the word? Grunge. I wanted it to remind me of the streets in Mexico, some of those walls that had amazing textures. So I painted my first backdrop. I thought it was horrendous until it dried. And I was like, wait, hold on. This looks like it could have been that wall in Mexico. Okay. And then I painted another one. And then I painted another one. And I just kept painting them. And I think I painted now, not a lot. I like olive fonts. I painted maybe 12 or 13 backdrops. Okay. So that was a personal project. I wasn't selling backdrops. Do you know how many requests I have now to paint and sell backdrops? So I'll be launching at the end of this year. But I'm taking my time with that because I don't want to keep them in the jar. I can't let the cat out the bag yet. I wouldn't do that. But it was travel. I just wanted the reminder of those streets, the walls, the doors. And that backdrop gave me that, and people love the images. You know, it's just another layer in your image, another dimension of your image. You can call it a prop, what it has a relationship with that image. And so now people actually want to buy this. Who else in here does not have a personal project? Okay. Anybody ever heard of Heidi Cooper? Let me tell you, she's called the Lint Queen. Now, I was hired by my tattoo artist to go and photograph his miniatures in a boutique. While I was in there were other artists' wares up. And I kept looking at myself, man, that was like lint. So I go over there and there are little creatures, you know, there's a mouse, a rabbit, and they're made out of lint for sale. When I say dust bunny, it was really a dust bunny, okay? So I said, you know, who turns lint into art? And then I found out about Heidi Cooper. Heidi Cooper was diagnosed with cancer. She was a metalsmith and a jeweler. She was diagnosed with cancer and wound up losing the ability to use her right. And after many surgeries, you know, she just didn't have strength and was always pain. And so, in support of Heidi, people would send her, and she was always cold, and they would send her all kinds of things. They would also send her like those chenille throws, you know, keep her warm. And one day, she has a cat. I don't know if she has more than one, but I know she has cats. And her mother-in-law decided she was going to wash the chenille. Dry it. So there was so much lint. I think she called it a beast or a creature or something like that. So much lint. This woman now creates art that rivals like some of the most amazing art we've seen out of dryer lint. At the time that I saw her interview, which was a few years ago, she had like 280 some containers of different colors of lint because people collect the lint and send it to her. She's creating Warhols and Picasso. She's recreating these things using lint. It is amazing. So if you can make a personal project out of lint and then wound up in, she's in Ripley's, believe it or not, you know, she's being invited to show her work in museums. You can make a personal project out of anything. Lint. She is the lint queen. So why don't we do it? Anybody heard of the Genius Rule or the 20% time policy? I think it is Google. So Google would give its employees and students time off just to work on projects that they are passionate about. But if they solve a problem or benefit the company. That's how we got Gmail. That's how we got Gmail. So if a company as big, as vast as Google can give folks time off to create, why are we not giving ourselves time off to just create something personal? It's personal. For yourself. Ask me questions. I can't be that good. Yes.
Do you go into some of these thinking where it's going to go, or do you just totally find yourself?
Okay, that is a fair question. And the answer is, it depends. So I have a consultation with every client. It doesn't matter whether I'm shooting them the next day or in 3 months. And after I talk with them, find out how they want to be photographed, find out why they're being photographed. Two different things. We'll get to a place where I'm starting to think, okay, this is what we're gonna do with this person. So when a person comes into the studio, I have at least one idea solid that I can just one. The rest of it unfolds while we're in there. Now, some people were at my studio last week. There's a lot of stuff. I like old things. I like things that are older than me. Okay, so a chair that's circa 1820 is good. I like my portraits to be, if they're sitting, I like them to be in antique chairs. They don't. I don't want them in pristine. I want them to have the character that they've lived through. And so I had that one idea, and then after that, it unfolds while we're in there. I have what I call studio wardrobe. The gown of, for instance, the gown that she has on, this robe that she has on, you have to have space to store these things unless you're going to get those wrapping bags. But I have similar to this in different colors. I know that she's in a sorority. I know her sorority colors are pink and green. Now, she brought her son in, and she had all pink outfits for him. No. I don't mind the color pink, but not every outfit for him to be pink. So take his clothes off. And I wrapped him in some green fabric, just in case you could see, didn't want to see his diaper. And there you have it. So I had this idea in my head. Everything else after that just unfolded while we were there. Especially if kids are involved, because you have no idea what you're going to get with the kids. And I literally have to act like a kid to get the kid to do what I want to do. And it's not. Yeah, but I act like a kid. So.
What about your personal projects? Do you start some of those?
No, so far I have not. So I had no interest in painting that up to me. I get the request all the time. I have been saying no up until about 2 months ago. I've been saying no for 4 years, 5 years. I was reminded of what my mentor said. Don't tell anybody I'm your mentor because you've lost your mind. But painting a backdrop, right? Painting a backdrop is not like photographing somebody on a motorcycle. If you're going to do it, I'm at that point in my life where I'm trying to get to progress over perfection. Okay. So, it's always been about getting right. Now I'm just like, get it good. just get it good. Painting a backdrop, there's levels to that. It depends on what the substrate is. It depends on what paint you use. I mean, prime it or not prime it. Do you have room to store it on glow, or do you want to crush it up? You can't crush up a canvas, but you can a muslin. So, there's a lot that's involved in that. So it was harder for me to say yes on that. As far as where are you going to store it? Where are you going to store all these backdrops with paint? Then you have to rely on people to buy the color that you, or are you going to take requests? Yeah, see, my personal projects are just that. I work on them when I want to. So to answer your question, I don't typically go into a personal project thinking that it's going to make me money. I do it because there's other reasons why I need maybe just an escape. Painting that first backdrop was out of necessity. There was no way I needed a backdrop in 4 days. Yeah. And I didn't want it paper. I didn't want to apply a texture. I said, we're going to do this. And now my granddaughter is 9, and she has painted a few backdrops herself. So I'm getting her started.
Maria?
Yes.
So there's a question in the chat. Francesca asked, what do you photograph when you take time off?
When I take time off,
Do you photograph at all?
actually I do, but I really have to be in the mood for it. So I like to do still life work. You don't see a lot of that on my portfolio. It's fine. It's fine. It's really all mine. And I'm not adding books, but I tell you, I studied color theory for a little bit, and I studied art history, and I found out why I'm drawn to certain artwork, and why I'm drawn to certain colors, and I will have an idea in my head, and I'll create still life. That's what I photograph for myself. I also photograph rare books, but I don't do that for me. I like rare books to read, so that's like my thing, my hobby. Some of my still life work, you know, caught the attention of a rare books dealer, reseller, and I have a contract now to photograph all of their rare books. And I actually bought a couple of catalogs in because I photographed them, and then they have their graphic designer make the catalog. And these catalogs, I mean, they're going to like the top 100 people that buy books from them. And when I say rare books, I mean, you know, 50, 60, $112,000 for a book. A book sometimes this big. There's a lot that has to be considered when handling those books. You can't open them up the rest of the line in the middle of the biggest sale. You can't do that. You can only open it as far as it will open naturally. It's really interesting. It is very much a challenge. Yes, ma'am. I thought you raised your hand. Oh,
I noticed that almost everything you've shown us is inside, and generally thick. You ever go outside? We're fun shooting 3 high school kids playing lacrosse, basketball, football, that kind of stuff. So I guess it's the expressions. It's a challenge, and could be rated, it could be snow, it could be sunshine.
yes. So remember that one of those questions that said, do you have any fears? So I was always concerned about what my lighting would look like outside, not using any lights.
It's what you get.
It's what you get, exactly. And so I started playing around. I was like, oh, this isn't bad. But what if there's a situation where you really need lights? So then I started taking my big babies out, and I was banging them up outside. And just recently, I purchased the ELB 500. It's a dual kit, so it's for on location work. So the hope is that I will do more on location work. I have 2 seniors scheduled for April and May.
Wonder when they're actually playing the games.
Oh no, okay. So let me back. So what you all don't know is I didn't start with portraits. I started with sports.
Oh, okay.
I started with sports. Both of my children play basketball, outside and inside, league, the whole deal. And I was the lawn photographer, and then I became the team photographer because they really liked the images. So I started in, right. So I started in sports, okay, and then it was different kinds of sports, and it got to the point where it was beyond the school sports, high school sports, and AAU sports. It was college. I was hired with another photographer to shoot me at, and so in different kinds of sports. It wasn't just basketball now. So I started in sports, and then I moved to weddings, and it was a great transition because I learned a lot about how to capture those pivotal moments during a wedding because of shooting sports. So I didn't start here. I got here because I wasn't making money shooting sports. Okay, and I wanted something where I could go inside when the weather was bad. Yeah. Yeah. But to this day, I have moms call me up all the time, friends, oh, my son, they have a championship football game. Can you come and shoot that? And I still do that.
I found a great way to train for weddings. You're going to combat.
Well, I did that.
And you better be ready for it.
Yes.
And you get the bride that's crying because one flower in the bouquet is yellow instead of all white. You just look and say, look down. Why should I look down? Just look down. What do you see? Best to see the toes of my shoes. You see the line?
Okay, you're so glad. Yeah. I did some research on some photographers, from back in the day, and I really like Henri Cartier-Bresson, the decisive moment. He would just like sit in one place and wait just for the right time to. I think the famous photograph is the guy, walking over the puddle just as he stepped off the curb. So yeah, so I love action. I shot quite a few motorcycle races, car races, blood free. I tell you what, you will learn the advantage of panic when the motorcycle was going 137 miles per hour. So this is just some of the, because I could talk about personal projects all day because 80-90% of my work came from me shooting personal projects. The other 10-15% is the photojournalism work that I still do.
You ever get so tired of doing one venue that you just want to drop it for a while and maybe you can move on to something else you've done or not done?
Absolutely.
It's like good luck.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
So walk me through the slide.
Mm-hmm.
Walk me through your light.
So my favorite setup, let's see, both of these are shot with this. My favorite setup is a Paramount light. So I have a 69-inch Electron Rolex Octabox. So it's shine straight down. I put them on the edge. And then I have, and it's a fill light. It really is. So the main light is usually at 45 degrees. And the bottom of the modifier is usually at the chin or at the eyes, depending on the size of the modifier. And then in the back, right behind me, I have a huge parabolic umbrella. I put my light on the lowest setting, and all it's doing is just filling in the shadows over the bed. And that is probably 75% of my light. If I want something really dramatic, I just start cutting off lights. If I'm shooting, if I want something I want really hard shadows, I don't use any of those. I take out a 17-inch beauty dish, and that's it. Maybe a reflector on the other side. That's it.
Soft, it's super soft.
Yes. Yes.
It has a mark.
So this is what I'm drawn to. This is what I shoot. And I have to tell you, I have had a few clients that wanted me to photograph them. And when I asked them how they want to be photographed and they showed me pictures and it's all this high key work, do I know how to shoot in high key? Absolutely. Is that my thing? No, it's not. Will I shoot them? Yes. Do I encourage it? No, because that's not my thing. It's just, it's not my thing. Photograph what I love. And now I love maternity. It's just something about being part of that person's day. Now, I did have a close call. I had a mom. She was an older mom, first baby. I photographed her on Friday. She was just, and I was like, okay, and we're just gonna kind of take it easy a little bit. High risk pregnancy. She delivered on Monday. Too close for me. All you really want is for them to look pregnant and not overweight. So I typically keep it between, 28, 32 weeks. When you start getting to 36 weeks, that's when they can deliver and healthy. And, if you think about it, it looks so graceful, but you're putting them in positions that are actually uncomfortable. It can be uncomfortable. Any more questions?
Spend a lot of time.
Okay. Ooh. He asked, do I spend a lot of time editing? So I am not a professional retoucher. Okay. I tell my clients I am not going to make you lose 50 pounds. So I'm good for 15, 20 pounds just in camera and maybe another 10 pounds with light. You just use shadow to your advantage. Okay. And you also use those tools that we've learned over the years. Whatever's most forward looks better. So if you don't like your feet, then we're not gonna have your feet forward. Okay, especially if it's a woman. Okay. So I'm not interested in making you look like a Barbie or Ken doll. I'm not interested. If the blemish is not gonna be there in 2 weeks, I remove it. I don't take off mold. I think molds are beautiful. I don't remove tags. I don't do any of that. Body shaping, if the way I posed you and your shirt is sitting out, I'm gonna fix that. But if that is your body, I'm not going to subtract. So here's my issue with that. I take off 30 pounds. You love this image, okay? But the best thing that could happen for me is that I get a referral from you, or several referrals from you. But if someone else looks at that image and goes, oh yeah, it's nice, but it doesn't look like you think they're gonna call me? Want me to? And with the rare books, I can't remove any scratches, tears. You cannot do that. Because if somebody's gonna pay $112,000 for one page of a very old Bible, you better not touch it. Okay, they need to know that this is what they're getting. This is what they're getting. Okay. Absolutely. Anything else? Any questions from our Zoom family?
Nope.
Oh. Is it party time? I would not be the life of the party because if I sit down, yeah. And I haven't heard my phone chime, so I guess the baby's not here yet. So, let's see. What's the next slide? Okay, so if there is anyone that is working on something just for themselves and just wants to talk about how to expand that, or if there's someone that doesn't have a personal project at all because they just can't, they can't find it in here, you're welcome to call me. You're welcome to call me. My number is right there. That number hasn't changed in so many years. Literally at my retirement ceremony, we had a big phone put on the stage with my number so that I could keep in touch with everybody. So, yeah, we can talk it through. Yeah, I'm in Waldo. It's like an hour and 20 minutes to get up here. I don't think it normally takes that long because I know it doesn't because my accountant is up here. It's just, it was raining.
Can I ask the age-old question?
Yes.
I really think pregnant women are neat because guys can't do that. There are very few men that photograph pregnant women, to the best of my knowledge. The numbers of women that photograph are much larger than numbers.
I would agree with that.
So what's your advice, if any? I mean, I've done it, and I've done a good job with it. Everybody liked it, but I just have a feeling that if you throw it out there, it may go into a wall. What's your opinion on that?
So you will absolutely get no traction at all if you don't throw it. Okay?
That's kind of what I figured.
So if you are genuinely conscientious and being creative and actually care about what's happening in that moment, you can't go wrong. And pregnant women, every single one is different. You can sit one on this hip and go try to sit the next one on that hip. Oh no, I need to do that. So it's about your intentions. Okay, if put it out there.
Some of the best I've done is just take curtains in a window, close them to about 6 inches. You got a slit of light that just runs right down the front. That's it.
Let me tell you. Okay, you see what you just said right there? There are companies out there that sell a device that go on your light, put a GoBo in, they give you that slit. I'm telling you, you can say to yourself, I have one. I've never used it. I've never used it.
A lot of it's in the personality too. What experience I do have. If you get somebody that has fun with life, they're going to have fun. You're going to have fun. Make sure hubby or best girlfriend or somebody else is around. You get a few laughs and then they start to relax and say,
Absolutely.
These pictures.
My makeup artist, her number one job is actually not makeup. Her number one job is breaking the ice. By the time she gets finished with that client, it doesn't matter what. Well, the makeup always looks good, but they're just so ready. They are just ready, like bring it on. Maternity clients are no different than anyone else, except you just have to be super careful about posting them. And if sometimes they won't say anything, Okay, you gotta read the face. If you see tension in the jaw, in the neck, you ask them, okay, so that looks like that may be uncomfortable. You want to try something else? Because they want the pictures so bad. And you know, they get their pictures taken while they're pregnant for different reasons. Okay, for different reasons. And you have no idea unless you've had that bonding moment before the session to know what that reason is. Are they having these pictures done because this is their first baby and they're so excited? Are they having these pictures done because they have 4 other kids and they know this is the last one and they never did it? Okay. Is it important because it's a rainbow baby? You know, so there's lots of different reasons why people come and have their pictures done while they're pregnant. Yes, sir. So a rainbow baby. So if a woman miscarries and then she has a successful pregnancy after that, they call it a rainbow baby. It's like that.
There's a question from the chat. Do your personal projects continue for a while, months, years, or is it no longer a project once people start hiring you for that kind of work?
It's still, that's a really, really good question. Okay, so if I have a different idea, like if I want to try something new, even with the paternity fund, I'll find a niece or someone who's pregnant or a friend's daughter, because you know my friends are not getting pregnant. I'm going to be 59 next Thursday. We're not getting pregnant. Okay, okay, not on purpose anyway. So, but yeah, so there's still the possibility of it remaining a personal project depending on what it is that I want to do with it. So again, in downtimes, I may want to try something different. Like maybe I didn't do a lot of silhouettes and I just want to see, you know, okay, how do we do this? And how do you make it look different than what's out there already? Okay, so I'll just, you know, pull someone in and photograph. It's still a personal project because I'm still trying to grow my knowledge about whatever that particular thing is. The backdrops is still very much a personal project because I'm still learning new techniques. Okay.
So there's one other, so kind of in a way answering a question I had because I'm the person without a personal project and everybody else said they've got one. So I'd be really interested in knowing what they are. So Marie says, project I do once a year. I Photoshop my yard, both front and back. I wait until most of the flowers are bloomed and then I just go out and shoot everything. Fence, rain garden, textures of a tree. Each year I change it up. I do this to remind myself that you don't have to travel to create with your own yard.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You asked me about going outside. Some shots are just to be done outside. Like a senior graduating from college that I have this the end of this month, and they just absolutely must have the champagne spray. We're not doing that in the studio. We'll do, yeah, I'll do the confetti with the shop vac, but we're not doing the champagne in the studio. So the front of the building, the cul-de-sac that I'm in, is all auto repair based. Okay. And the front of the building of Fancy Vans actually has a pretty nice size area of brick with a little sidewalk and then racks. So I'm going to maximize on depth of field. I'm going to put her in front of that brick and she can spray all the champagne she wants. Absolutely. Yeah. You don't have to go far.
Do any of your personal projects end up as coffee table books?
Okay.
The question is, does any of Donnamaria's personal projects end up as coffee table books?
So the cigar images that I create, that will end up in a coffee table. The only reason why it's not a book already is because I don't want multiple pictures of the same person in the book. So I have a goal in mind as far as being, I want it to be a substantial book. Okay, I'm not talking 20 pages. And then there will be a write-up that goes with each of the products. So that will be a coffee table book.
And will that be something that you have for sale, or is this one of a kind?
Actually, it will be for sale because I know they want it. I know they want it. So, so yes. As far as the beard series is concerned,
I'll volunteer.
I'm really thinking about that. But again, it's gonna require, you know, more people. And so the cigar sessions, the number of people that I need for that will come a lot quicker than the beers because they're men and women that smoke cigars. But I don't know too many women that smoke beers. Not that they're not out there, but so yeah, so that one will come along a lot quicker. But yeah, I have a number in mind, and I am not out rushing to get that number. It is a personal project that I choose when I want to. Now, here's the thing: the clients that hire me to photograph them smoking cigars, what do you think their primary question is?
How many cigars do I have to smoke?
That is a question that I get asked, but I'm down to half or 2 cigars now, not 6. But no, so they want to know. So, can I be a part of that signature lounge series? Can I get a picture in that series? They want to be included because it already has a name. It's the Signature Lounge series. It's 1, 2, and 3. 1 is all the men because I started with the men. 2 is all the women, and 3 are couples, like the couple that you saw. They just bought a house. They just went to closing in Texas for last week before last, and so they've sent me the dimensions of 2 walls because they want 2 very large pieces of wall art. That couple by themselves got me published in a magazine, and they buy their images. He's a photographer. She's a model, but she's also IT, but she models. And they hired me. But I practiced with him first smoking cigars. And he's like, oh no, I want this for real. Like I want the whole experience, not come in 15, 20 minutes, set up, shoot a couple shots. Yes, sir.
You mentioned earlier that you chose Sunday as the day to photograph the cigar smokers. What was the motive for choosing that day?
Because I would not photograph anyone else other than I wouldn't photograph anyone else in the studio until like Wednesday or Thursday. So they gave me 3 days to get smoke cleared out of the studio, even if it meant I had to bring in a device to clear it out. But there's not that much smoking going on now that I've perfected the technique. So, but I still, it's got to be several days because there is no way, if I have a hint of smoke, I will not shoot a maternity session. There's no way. I would not shoot. I would not have anyone bring a child in there either. Yeah, I don't want to photograph anyone in there other than the person that has smoked a cigar until it's parents. And you know, some of that is just being conscientious, but you know, my background is medical, so I'm just going to be thinking about those things. Anyone else? This has been awesome. I just want to move in here. When I saw the walls in here, oh my God.
Wait to see the ones downstairs.
I'm going back. I wanted to make sure I was done first in case I come back up.
The ones downstairs is stucco. Some of it is broken off. It looks like
Yes.
the mission at San Antonio.
Yes, which I know very well. I was at Fort Sam Houston. So speaking, yes, and I am a Longhorn also. So it's interesting that you bring that up because when you have a space of your own that you can do things with, you can create those walls. So I have been longing for a partially defaced brick wall. So I have a wall that I'm going to do that to one purpose.
I can see you now.
Yes, yes, it's happening. Anything else? Anyone else?
Okay.
Yeah. No more questions, Holland?
Anybody?
You can ask me literally anything. I don't
So what's your
I don't
model?
hold
look
on
like?
to anything. I believe in the abundance mentality. We can do the same things, but you're gonna bring your energy to it. I'm gonna bring mine. It's not gonna be the same. You can ask me anything.
What was
Yes.
your medical background? You said you were medical?
Yeah, so I have a bachelor's and a doctorate of pharmacy. When I went to war, I did very little pharmacy. I did all kinds of other things. Yeah.
So I really enjoyed being in your studio and all the things that were in there. They're eclectic and fun and there's so much. So do those things accumulate through projects or do you see something and say, somehow I'm gonna make use of this?
Okay, I'm just gonna give.
Because there's
I'm
so
giving
much
you-
and it's
okay?
all over the place.
All right. So here goes. Do not sleep on the Salvation Army or Goodwill, first of all. Okay, do not sleep on it. Because did you see the red couch?
Yes.
Oh my God. Did you see that thing? I'm
I
scared to
saw the
find
helmet and the sword and.
yeah, I'm scared to find out its value. So what you didn't see was the couch that has the cover over. It's covered because it's a Duncan fight that I spent $175 on.
Wow.
And I saw it on the Antique Roadshow. And it sold for $20,000. Okay?
Wow.
Yeah. So, I get a feeling I'll drive past the Salvation Army because you know what? It's on that same street. It's a half a mile. I'll drive by and I'll go about my business. Sometimes I'll drive by and I'll make a U-turn and I'll go in there. And almost every time I do that, I find something. So here's the thing. There is a lot of furniture in here. I have some chairs from the 1800s that I found on Craigslist. I have people that literally, because they know what's in the studio. I had a gentleman. I won't say his name because he owns a funeral home and somebody may know who he is. But I did some work for him. One day he knocked on the door, and when I opened the door, he had a pickup truck. And he says, "Hey, we're clearing out that home that we had, and we're going to do something else with it. And I don't know what to do with this furniture. It's really old. It's in great shape. And so here, 2 settees and 2 chairs. Probably early 1900s, maybe 1910, 1920. People come and drop stuff. But I paid $90 for that red velvet
Wow.
couch. It's huge.
Wow.
As a matter of fact, it's in here.
Can't get it, I gotta back it up.
$90. It was marked $125.
Got one.
There it is.
Yes. I said, I'm not gonna get it. Because I have a rule now. If I bring a piece of furniture in, something has to go. Okay? If I bring a couch in, something has to go that's the equivalent of that size. That might be 4 chairs. Okay? Last year I got rid of 13 chairs. So that means that I bought some stuff in there. Okay. So this chair was marked $125. I've been wanting a red velvet couch, an old red velvet couch. Got the lion heads, tassel. And I said, I'm not gonna get it because I gotta get rid of something. So I took a picture of it and I sent it to my family. They're like, "Oh, so you're getting it?" I was like, "Oh no, because I gotta get rid of something." They said, "Well, you're gonna start deciding what you're gonna get rid of." So I take the tag and I go up to the counter. It says $125. I give it to her. She rings it up. She said, "That'll be $90." And I said, "No, it's $125." She says, "Oh, I'm sorry, ma'am. It's been out for over 7 days, so we have to mark it down."
Oh, darn.
Okay, honey, can you bring the truck over so that we can get this truck? It's also how I found a baby Grant that's in the studio. I went in there looking for a small table. Yeah. The manager comes up and he says, "I've seen you come in here at least once a week the last month." It was just one of those months. I said, "Yeah." He said, "So you're always looking at the furniture. What are you looking for in particular?" I said, "Well, I'm looking for a small table, but I want it to be more like an industrial table. I want it to have metal legs and an old wood top." I said, "Don't have anything like that, but I'll keep an eye out for you. Are you interested in anything else?" "No, not really." He said, "Why don't you come on here in the back?" Nah. I said, "No, right?" Okay. "Why don't you come on here in the back?" So you need to understand that when you drop things off at the Salvation Army, they have to move that stuff. Okay, so it needs to get out on the floor. They can't hold things. They'll hold it 7 days. That's it. If you don't come and buy it, if you don't come and pick it up, this is even after you purchased it. If you don't come and pick it up, then it goes back out on the floor. So I'm looking around in your bag. I was like, "Oh, that's nice." He said, "Yeah, you want to buy it?" It's not even, priced yet. It's like, "No, I don't really need that. I really need that." Wow. said, is that a baby grand? Oh, yeah. I was like, well, why did you say it like that? He said, this woman bought this baby grand 2 months ago. I said, oh, okay. And so I walked away. He said, but she never came back to pick it up. I was like, oh, well, how much did she buy it for? She bought it for like $375 and she never came to pick it up. They called her. They had been calling her. They only had to hold it for 7 days. They only had to hold it for 7 days, but they've been calling her for over 2 months. And I was like, wow, that's really nice. That's really old. Yeah. I said, oh, okay. He said, you really like it, huh? I said, yeah, I do. He said, how much do you like it? I was like, I really like it. He said, so if the price was right, would you buy it? I was like, didn't you say she bought it already? He said, it's been 2 months, ma'am. He said, the only reason why I haven't put, he called me ma'am too. He said, the only reason why I haven't put it back out there because they have no room. I was like, oh, well, how much would you sell it to me for? He said, I'll be right back. He came back $147. I was like, hey. It took 4 men to lift that, whatever, the lift on the back of the truck. And yeah, and then it's a half a mile. So we had to go half a mile. It cost me $60 to have it moved. And it's got the narrow spindly legs. It was crafted in 1915. I looked it up. I started studying it. I've had it tuned. It still needs some cleaning done on the.
That's a $5,000 minimum. Yeah.
And $147. Thank you very much. Yes. Yeah. And I've done some. It's a pop. But while my granddaughter was taking piano lessons, I had it tuned, and so they would come to the studio and she would take a piano lesson. So here's the thing: when you start collecting things, it should have more than one function. Should have more than one function.
You don't know why that.
So I have these chests. What do you call the steamers?
Yep, steamer trunks.
So they have more than one purpose. They are props. And I also use them to store thousands of yards of fabric that I have in there because I drape my ladies in fabric. Okay. Some of the things that look like dresses are not dresses at all. They are pieces of fabric with clamps or safety pins. Yeah, they look like dresses. So yeah. So the piano serves 2 purposes. She plays it and it's a prop. Yeah. So to answer your question, I get things all kinds of ways. I saw a high boy, high back, wing back, because that's 2 different things, sitting out on a curb. And I said, well, something's not right. This was in a wealthy neighborhood. I made a wrong turn. Well, it turned out to be a great wrong turn. It was sitting out on the curb. I said, how was somebody sitting out there? I know the neighborhood that I'm in. I said, that's crazy. So I found my way back out. It was up in Silver Spring, Chevy Chase area. And let me go back. And so I go back. Man, it's sitting on the curb. So where it's sitting on the curb, you don't know which house it's at out. So I just, third house, I went and I knocked on the door. This lady comes, she's covered in paint. And she said, can I help you? And I said, I'm just wondering, do you know who set this chair out there? She's like, oh, I put it out there. I hate to get rid of it. I said, you're getting rid of that chair, pristine condition. Did you see the dusty rose, salmon, pink, mauve kind of chair over there in the corner? Yep. That's the chair. She says, well, we're remodeling and it just doesn't fit the decor. I said, what? She said, yeah, there's also a blue one that came from the great room. And I said, oh, she said, but my son drove down from Ohio and he got that already. So, I just put it out there. We're painting right now, but I'm also I'm an artist. And I was like, oh, okay. She said, do you want the chair? I said, I would love it. How much would you sell it to me for? She said, no, honey. It's sitting out there because I want the bulk trash to come and take it. I was like, you got to be kidding me. So I had a ball. She said, honey, can you come down and help her tie this into her trunk? So I literally had this chair that was hanging out of my trunk, tied in it. So I got it home and I steam it. I keep the steamer there, upholstery cleaner, and I clean everything. That red chair, when I bought it in, I emptied an entire can of Lysol on it because I had to go home. And then the next day I came back and I steam cleaned because the last thing you want to do is bring bed bugs into your home or into your studio, because if they're in your studio, they're gonna go to your home. So I made sure that it was not next to anything. And I'm not kidding, I emptied the entire can of Lysol and then,
Francesca says she has a large steamer trunk for you if you want it.
oh my God.
So
We'll hook it up, yeah.
while Bruce is getting the steamer truck for you, since you have all these wonderful toys and gadgets at your studio, I think that you should have a Grandma PPA day. We can come visit your studio on a
Oh
Saturday.
my gosh, I would totally be honored. If you want to do that.
Well, I already tried to get her to
Oh.
teach us how to make backdrops.
I
Since you wasn't
I
ready to do
can,
that.
I can do that too. I mean, but I say I have limited knowledge, but I'll show you what I know.
Field trip.
I think that'd be super fun. Just get, out in your parking lot.
Yeah, we can do that.
All
Day
this
that we
new
know
on
it's
that
gonna be
parking garage.
Yeah,
warm
yeah, it's great.
outside. So those businesses are closed on the weekends. The only one that may be open is the motorcycle shop that's across. And I know that he's open on some Saturdays because he's the only one that I let touch my bike. So we usually have the parking lot on Saturdays. Sundays is people start dropping off their cars to be serviced on Monday. But I have painted some drops outside. Most of the time I'm only doing one or two at a time. I just move things back up against the wall and I paint it. Yeah, I'm game for that.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Maybe you can-
Copy book,
My copy work?
papers, books.
Oh, okay. What do you want to know?
Is it possible to this?
Yes, you can visit. I have no problems with that. You can do anything you like, just can't touch the books. So I am very minimalist when it comes to the setting for the books. They have to be done on white. So if anything gets retouched at all, I find respect from the white. Okay. I mean, it's literally you've heard of Big Black World. I started out with just a big piece of white paper. And I put it on the table and I put it back and I'm staying behind it and so that I have, it's almost like having a thick wall, but it's almost this big. And then I put 2 white B flats on the side. I have a light overhead and a light shooting this way. And depending on what it is I'm photographing, I may have to move one or both of those lights. So if the book has a glassine kind of cover, you will get a reflection. So you have to change the angle. But it's a real simple setup.
So what are you photographing? Just the binding, the outside, or are you also getting like the title page or?
I spend $60,000. You want to see what it's like.
Sure.
Okay, so the title page, okay, so the cover has to be photographed, the binding has to be photographed, I mean, the spine has to be photographed. So there's usually 4 to 6 shots that you have to have. Depending on what it is, 4 shots might be all you get. Because if it's a postcard, you're not going to see you photograph a postcard. But you got a photograph. The postcard is $1,000, right? So you want the title page. If there's a signature, you want the signature. If there's anything interesting about the binding or the leaf, you want to photograph it. It could be color, it could be design, because they use that. I mean, you'll see what I'm talking about. You just look in there. These are some of the books that I photographed, and they have a graphic designer that puts all the whatever. But yeah. So, and then you want to get some angle shots, and then there are certain pages in the book that the bookseller is going to want to have photographed. It may be something of some significance. It could be the words, it could be the typeface, it could be something like that. So when you hold a book, First of all, you would never do what I just did. That's slide across the table. Okay? You also do not wear gloves. Because when you put on gloves, what happens to your tactile sense? You don't know if that book is slipping out of your hand or not, right? You need to. So no oils. I wash my hands a ridiculous amount of times when I'm handling the books or the other artifacts, right? So if I had this book here, I can stick this in. Okay. You see where that opens? I can't let that open any further than that. Okay, you can't take it like we did when we were in school. You never want to do that. If that book is, 300 years old, when you do that, you just destroyed that book. Okay, so I use all kinds of little props to prop it up that can't be seen. I also use props that are acid free. Okay, linen free. Because I care about the books, and they know that I care about the books, which is why they're going to have me photograph their 15,000 books.
Did you say linen free?
Linen free.
Why?
Because it's going to touch up against the book. And linen is like an acid, and
Linen has an acid?
not linen, linen, Lignin.
Oh.
Yes, yes. So what if it's a book that's like this big, okay? And it only opens because, it's a few hundred years old, and it only opens like that. I can't take it and open it up. What I can do is hold it like that, have someone else hold it. It's got to be a certain angle, and I photograph into it. Okay? Can't spread it open. Cannot do that. Yes.
One of the things that I found with handling paper is using the alcohol washes that they have now coated,
Mm-hmm.
and that really gets rid of
The oils and
your oils
Yes.
and everything else. So I can handle my papers.
yes.
Yeah, but I got to redo it because
Yes. Over and over and over and over again. And sometimes there's a seal in it. And so if you photograph that seal flat, just like that, you can't really see the texture, right? So that's when you start using side lighting.
the other side.
You want to photograph it so that you can actually see that way seal. Yes, sir.
So you mentioned that occasionally you have to change the angle on it because of the reflective nature
Yes.
of it. Have you tried polarizing lens of mine?
I have, but by the time I go and I put it on, it's so easy for me to take another piece of the funnel and put it out. And they also they're entrusting me to decide what the primary photo is, and they don't want the same angle for every book. So if I take a weekend and I photograph 50 books, they don't want the primary image of all 50 books to be the front. And there's something unusual, like I said, there's some design or something graphic about it. I may choose that as the primary image. It's the lead image for the catalog. And 46 images minimum for each, unless it's, how many images can you take of a Braille book? Actually, quite a few, especially if it's really, really old. I've had some Holocaust pictures, tough to look at, but needed to be photographed. Really tough.
So for this client, you're doing books and photographs, another rare.
Whatever they have. So sometimes they'll buy a collection, and in that collection will be books. There may be some postcards. There may be a piece of artwork that has a glass on it that you can't take off. So, yeah.
There was a time in my life, my sister did a lot of work with photographic art galleries and painting art galleries in New York. She was commissioned by an insurance company to go collect photographs that they could hang on their walls, and this would be a tremendous tax deduction. But here was the deal. We went to visit and she said, I kept these because I wanted you to see them before I give them the insurance company. I'm going to do that tomorrow, but I want you to see it. She went in this room that they had rented to be kind of like a basement in their park area. She flipped on the light and I'm looking at 150 original Matthew Brady Civil War photographs, including, are you ready for this? You know, the oval one of Lee
Oh, my goodness.
that's shot on an 11x14 negative? And the one of Lincoln standing in front of the tent with his generals with the 2-foot so hat. And they were all the originals, and you could see every single, you like beards? You could see every single one of them. I swear, they were mostly little curly, but they weren't straight.
Right.
And she was going to turn it over to the insurance company. So here's the deal. They gave her $1.5 million to find those. Then they hung them up on the walls of their building for some period of time. Then after 10 years, one or two at a time, after they've accrued how much more value, they would start selling them off one at a time, probably make a 300% profit.
Wow.
That was not capital gains because they sold them off one at a time. Plus they deducted the $1.5 million from their business deductions on the.
I don't think like that. I
Yeah.
wish I could just.
Isn't that neat? Did I give you an idea?
Yes, you
on
did,
those books?
Yes. Yes. I have, because I love books so much, it has been, just like an unbelievable experience for me to photograph these books. I mean, I photographed Beethoven's Fifth Symphony that played it. Yeah.
I may have a fun thing for you if you want.
Sure, we can talk about that.
Do you know what indentureship was in
Yes.
colonial days?
Yes,
It was sort of slavery for women.
yes.
You married this guy, you made an indentureship on paper, you gave him everything you owned, actually right down to your underwear. And then mostly you cranked out kids for that. So this piece of paper was his property. If he died, you could get it back, but as soon as you marry the next guy, of course, he gets the whole thing again. I have one of those. And it belonged to the woman that married the United States ambassador to France in 1889, I think.
Yeah, let's talk about that. How do you have it stored?
It's in a plastic bag sitting on my desk.
A plastic bag?
Yeah.
Like what kind of plastic bag?
I don't know, I think I would throw one.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, no, How big is the
Choice
paper?
vegetables and it's clear. It's
Oh,
clear with a zip.
Okay, okay,
No, not
Yeah,
shopping bag.
okay. All right.
No, I'm better than that. I'm a colonial.
Not
historian.
much.
Yeah, so they sell those archival sleeves.
I know about that, and I have done some photography on stuff in part of the house for that. I'm also a wonder guy in Atlas, that's like 1750.
Oh, okay. That's pretty awesome that you had that. That's quite a.
Well, it's a whole. I'm a historian, mostly military. Boy, this is open the whole world.
I'm sure.
Didn't you know? You're a Marylander, right?
I was actually born at Walter Reed.
Okay. The United States did not become the United States until the Treaty of Paris was actually signed in the State House Senate room. Up to that point, even though they said United States, we were still colonies of England until the pen and paper in this state house. And there probably are 50 people in the state of Maryland that realize that.
Well, I did.
Well, you gotta go out one way.
That's
I would treat you.
Okay.
There's,
Your mind will go crazy looking at picture things. Figure out what to photograph. Brain hammer.
Gotcha.
there's another question from the chat. Benson asked, let's see, what size backdrops? It's too far for me to read. What size backdrops do you find yourself painting the most? And that is most versatile for your work, 10 by 10, 10 by 20, other.
Okay. So when I first started, because I didn't know what I was doing, I was painting 6 by 9. But even if I'm only photographing one person and it's maternity, 6x9 isn't large enough for me because I like to do that whole floating material. 6 feet is not enough. So most of the backdrops that I paint now are at a minimum 9x12. And I have an electronic background system to hold the actual canvases. So they're on spools. And so yeah, 9x12. As far as color and versatility, of course, gray, but olive green. Everybody's skin looks amazing against olive green. Everybody. Everybody. So those are my two most versatile. I love the browns. I have a double-sided one that I painted. It's a warm brown on one side and a cooler brown on the other side. That was not intentional. It was by accident. But it worked out.
Benson said also that he was born at Walter Reed too.
Benson
Smaller
White.
world.
Yeah. Oh yes, we photographed together and yeah, we have history. Awesome photographer. Yeah. So 9x12 is my go-to for painting. My muslins, I bought them long time ago. Those are 10x20. And if I have a really big family, I will pull out the muslin. The beauty of the muslins, you store them rolled up. You do not fold them. If you fold them, you get hard creases. If you ball them up, you get all those little creases. And I promise you, I'll show you when you come down there. Spray bottle, hot water, spray it down. You literally watch the wrinkles fall out. So I can have an entire backdrop sprayed and unwrinkled in less than 10 minutes from one end to the other.
Sometimes don't you like those wrinkles for effect?
It all depends. So, I have some other stuff in the studio. So if I have a family of 15, I'm gonna want them somewhat closer to the backdrop than pulling them forward, because when you pull a person forward, the backdrop shrinks. But yeah. So, and because of the textures that are painted into the background, they look like they're just small wrinkles anyway. But I don't want the wrinkles to catch light because I use a lot of feathered light. I don't want those shadows in the background. So yeah.
I learned something.
Me too. Me too. You all were awesome. So I'm absolutely 100% for having a
Field trip.
MDPPA now.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
We will do that.
Yes,
We'll do
let's do that. And even though we can free flow a lot of it, but if there's something in particular we want to do that day, I just need to know in advance so that I can make sure that I have room, whether it's backdrops or something different.
Cool.
Yeah. You can have a headshot thing.
Anything else
You can just wander around
Zoom
the place
kids,
and point out things and stuff.
Francesca says, that Donnamaria is awesome.
And that's the interesting stuff.
Janella says, given your extensive variety of photographing, do you have a favorite?
I would say oh boy, this is tough. I'm glad none of my clients bring up me. I think right now my favorites are maternity. I think so because to have a baby is a miracle, right? And it's kind of like being involved in a wedding, like you're being involved in their happy day. So doing a maternity shoot, I'm involved in creating that miracle or capturing that moment, something that they can look back at. And so I have to say that that's my favorite right now. Yes.
Cool.
That's actually one of my favorite family pictures that I have with my wife, my younger daughter. And I said, that's my 3 favorite people right there.
Yeah. And see, we didn't do
And I keep that,
pictures when I was
all the pictures we have in the house. That's the one that's on our desk.
Yeah. Now remember, I said I had no intentions of being a maternity photographer, and I just said that my favorite photograph is maternity. So I'm growing up.
It's all about the fun and all about the money.
Yeah, I'm growing up.
Awesome. All right, did it?
Yeah.
Donnamaria, thank you so much. Well, She did post her information. If you didn't get it, make sure you get it before you leave, because she did say she would ask you a question.
Whatever questions you have, if I have the answer, I'm gonna get it. If I don't, and I know somebody who does, I'll still get it.
So thank you so very much for going up from Walden. I know how far it was. So thank you for coming up. Just a reminder, we do have online auction items, so if you guys haven't done that yet, please go check it out. We did send out an email with that link, so check your emails. Tomorrow morning, we have Russ Harrington at 9 a.m. So Russ will be here. You can come to that if you want.
Oh, I am.
Oh,
Yeah, tell my grandbaby.
Right, yeah.
you might get done. So Russ Harrington is here from 9 to 4:30, and then tomorrow we have a happy hour downstairs, 5 to 6.